Let's paint a scenario that perhaps some of you have encountered before. You write your essay and you get feedback from the marker saying something like, "This is very descriptive. You need to develop your voice in your essay and tell me what it is that you think." You then try and take on board that feedback in your next assignment and you start writing things like, "I think this," and "I think that." And then another marker turns around to you and says, "You shouldn't use I in an essay." And this can lead to rage mode being activated because on face value, those two statements seem infuriatingly contradictory. In actual fact, they aren't. It's just perhaps those markers didn't take the time to elaborate precisely what they meant by their comments and actually what they wanted you to do in your assignment. And if you've ever experienced that sort of scenario in your assignment before, then you've come to the right place. Because in this video, in which I really should title Markers, What the Hell Are They Talking About?, I will try to dispel some of the mystery around how to find your voice in your essay. So let us go back to that first comment about finding your voice and decode what is actually being meant here. Firstly, what the marker is saying here is that they aren't really interested in you repeating and describing things that you read or came across. I've mentioned before in previous videos, look down in the description for that showing you understand something shows lower levels of learning than the ability to apply, use, or evaluate ideas that you're discussing. In other words, essay writing is not a place just to repeat things you read about. It's about trying to piece together a thoughtful answer to a question using theory or evidence to support your position and evaluate the position that you're taking. So part of finding your voice is ensuring that you try to adopt a position in your essay and make arguments. If you merely describe what other people said, what other people did, what other people found, then you aren't showcasing a stronger set of abilities that at higher education we often value and want to see students demonstrate. Okay, so based on that, you may think the obvious solution is to start inserting statements like, "I think this idea is useful and has lots of supporting evidence." After all, the easiest way to demonstrate that you have a voice or a personal opinion is through making I statements, right? Well, sort of. You see, there are two issues here with using I in your essays. Firstly, when we make I statements, it can read speculative and anecdotal. And in science, we aren't interested in that. We're interested in theory and evidence. So you need to make sure that your opinions are theory and evidence informed and make clear to the reader that your opinions are based on theory and evidence. So even if your I statement actually may be theoretically sound, it may read like it isn't and is based on speculative or shaky evidence. The second issue here is actually one that's more of an issue regarding appropriate conventions in writing than anything else. It's generally not considered acceptable practice to write in first person in your assignment. So what you should try and do in your assignments is to write in third person. For example, rather than saying, "I think this video is pretty useful," you should instead write in third person. "This video is pretty useful for students." Of course, when we think about those two ideas, you need to show your voice, you can't use I. The two put together can lead to a slightly frustrating conundrum. You want to show your voice, but the easiest way to do that is frowned upon as a practice. So how can you do it? Well, although not the only way to achieve this, but one that I think is a simple and effective way to adopt your writing is by following one simple rule. Never, ever start a sentence with a researcher name. When you start sentences with a researcher's name, you often end up stating things like, "Fairlamb suggested," "Fairlamb argued," "Fairlamb proposed," "Fairlamb said," "Fairlamb did." All of the above sounds like you're just telling the reader what other people thought. This method hinders the ability to show what you think. You may know what you think, but it's important that you write in a way that it makes clear to the reader what it is you think too. So instead, what you should do is make statements and always end the sentence with the appropriate citation in brackets. For example, you could say instead, "The value of this approach is," or "This theory is limited because," and there are many other similar statements that you can make where you outline a particular argument and appropriately credit the researcher for that argument. What you're doing here is you're making statements about your interpretation of psychological theory or research, which makes it clear what you think, but then you're appropriately crediting the original researcher for their idea. And this is obviously something you should always do if it actually wasn't your own idea and it was something that you read. This approach of borrowing ideas from other people and appropriately crediting them is fine, because there's nothing wrong if your opinion aligns with theirs. It's likely often that your opinion will converge with theirs because, well, you know, they've been doing this for decades and you've been studying that particular topic for a couple of weeks. But the point is that it makes your voice come through a lot louder and clearer. But it also makes sure that the reader can see your opinion is based off scientific ideas by referring them to a relevant paper that discusses it, or a theory or a study that supports it. So the next time you need to find your voice in an essay, the first part is ensuring you know what position you want to take, but it can also be sometimes as a simple change to the way that you approach writing it. I hope you found this video useful in finding your voice in your essays. If you did, give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you'd like me to tackle other parts of essay writing, then comment down below.